Welcome back to Radio Row in New Orleans, the Convention Center Samoge. This is the Northwest Tank Line Super Bowl show. Of course, Super Bowl 59 this Sunday, pitting the Kansas City Chiefs against the Philadelphia Eagles. Our next guest is a name familiar to all of the 12s in the Northwest, including those north of the border. He's the man who led the Seahawks to their first ever Super Bowl appearance. Matt Hasselbeck in the house. See.
What's up? How we doing?
You're supposed to do the Hawks part. Come on.
Oh, Seahawk. You know what? You put the emphasis on the wrong syllable on one of those words. It threw me off right there.
How you doing?
And I got these cigars right in front of me. I'm like kind of just checking them out, trying to read them through the back.
Do you have any friends that smoke cigars? Because I know you don't.
Joe Burrow. Do you know him?
Yeah. You know Burrow's dad played in Canada?
I did not know that.
Played for the Montreal Alouettes.
Okay.
Always 1 degree of separation from us and you guys down south of the border.
I love it. I'm excited to be here. This is really cool. I'm actually just here. My daughter is working the Super Bowl this year. She graduated from Boston College last year. Had a great run as a lacrosse player, and now she's doing sports media. So I'm really just like a fan. I'm basically her plus one, and just kind of having fun.
We were talking about this a while ago. You have a certain affinity for the city of Vancouver because you would go up.
I mean, who wouldn't?
I just talked to Jackson Smith and the Jigma in Weatherspoon. I'm like, you guys been to Vancouver yet? No, we got to go though, right?
They're focused. They're focused on football. You know, really what brought me up there the first time was rehab.
Yeah,
I had an injury, and I had basically searched all the people in the States, and no one could help me. And they were like, there's this guy, though, up in Vancouver. And I was like, all right, let's go. And it was gorgeous. I mean, it was incredible. The restaurants were amazing. Had the best time. The shot, like, forget the conversion for the dollar at the time, but I was definitely losing my wallet on that. But other than that, it was a great experience.
Tell you what, the U.S. dollar right now is worth $1.30, 35 Canadian, depending on your exchange rate. So you're getting some bang for your buck.
Okay.
But, we talk about Rick Celebrini and then Dr. Jerry Ramagita as well. Worked a lot with you guys, right?
Yeah, those are great. And, Jerry was working with the like Golden State Warriors, and Rick really was like a guy that, I've only had one surgery in my entire life. Played 18 years in the NFL, one surgery. I should say one surgery while I was playing. And that was optional. Drew Brees kind of talked me into it on a second opinion. That's a whole other story. But it would have been much more had I never met Rick Celebrini. So I'm very grateful to him.
What do you think of his kid, Macklin?
So it's so funny. I'm like, obviously we're a Boston College family, and we're watching a hockey game, and my wife's like, "Oh, Celebrini, I wonder if any relation." I'm like, "Don't do that. That's what like all Americans do. They see like some kid from Canada, and you're like, oh, do you know my cousin John from like Alberta? Oh, I love PEI muscles. Like what are we doing? I'm not doing it.
Oh my God!
I hadn't talked to Rick Celebrini in ages, and then I'm just like, I kind of feel like. So I just texted him. I'm like, hey, I'm watching these boys. Like, any chance there's any relation? He's like, are you kidding me? It's my son. I'm like, what? So I love to, at BC, the thing to say is it sucks to be you, BU, BC. But my disdain for BU had to go away because I had to root for.
Of course, you're a college guy, Boston College guy, right?
Yeah, and so like Will Smith is like hockey teammates with my son growing up, and a lot of these guys are playing now in the NHL, and so I just put Macklin on the list of people I now root for.
That's awesome. I'm just killing myself laughing because when you're talking about, you're from Vancouver. Yeah, I got a friend Steve in Toronto. Do you know him? No.
It happens. I mean, I actually lean into it. Like now, if I'm sort of obnoxious, like I'll meet somebody from Calgary and I'll be like, oh my gosh.
You know Bob from Vancouver?
Yeah. Do you have any idea? And then I'll show off my Sega Genesis NHL 95 knowledge.
Oh, you got skills?
In just that 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah, like I could tell you like Teemu Selanne was in Winnipeg, and just like Adam Oates was in Boston, and Lidstrom was in Detroit, and Chelly, like the big names obviously, but then the small names, but only from the video game. Never seen them play, don't know anything. I just know what their rankings were on Sega Genesis.
It's funny. I was reading a tweet the other day. Somebody tweeted that their kid kicked them in NHL 2K25, whatever. And then he got out the Sega Genesis. He got out the Sega Genesis like 94, 95.
Yeah.
And he said he spanked his kid 12-0.
Too many buttons. Like if you're in your 40s, there's just too many buttons on those new controllers. Forget about it.
So you're living in Nashville now, you're saying?
Living in Nashville. Ironically, moving to Boston after this Super Bowl. I was coaching high school football in Nashville with my brother Tim. Tim's still at ESPN. He does SVP at night on Sunday nights, but He's a head high school football coach, which is what I was doing for the year before that. So I was his offensive coordinator. My dad was helping coach tight ends. My nephew's the quarterback. A blast, absolute blast. Awesome coaching staff. Went undefeated till we lost in the semifinal, but really cool, really fun.
Do you know the cool thing about kids at that age, and I've coached at just about every level. I coach kids that are like 6 to 8. I coach kids for 5. Well, coach university for 5 years, D-line, and then I coached high school for 3-4 years as well with a buddy of mine. You might know him, Farhan Lalji from TSN. Anyway, and at the high school level, the cool thing about it is even at the little kids are sponges. They'll pick everything up. And even at the high school level, they never ask why, right? It's whatever you tell them, they do it. And that's the cool thing. It's just like there's no, how would you put it? I'm glad to hear you say that, because I think I'm fighting like attention deficit with these kids, and I feel like it's really grown me to like keep it simple and transferable and shareable. Mm-hmm. My biggest thing I learned this year is like I don't need to sort of prove how creative I can be or prove how smart I can be. What I need to do is I need to prove that I can be a good enough teacher where when I tell call it seniors, if a sophomore asks them a question, they could tell it maybe even better than me because they speak their language a little bit better. So I'm glad to hear you say that, because it can get discouraging a little time. Yep. My phrase, we didn't have money for T-shirts or phrases like they do. My phrase would have been, make new mistakes. I have no issue with you making a mistake. I am not going to rip you for making a mistake. However, if you're an error repeater, if you make the same mistake twice, even if it's the same mistake as someone else just made in front of you, I don't have any patience for that, and there need to be consequences, because that's what the real world's like. Matt Hasselbeck, Seahawk legendary quarterback, is our guest. We've been talking about this throughout the week. You come here, it's like a reunion, right? I mean, I've heard that term, but I was just thinking, Sean Alexander was here earlier this week. I don't know if you caught up with Sean.
I did not.
Nate Burleson was kicking around as well, right?
Well, Nate Burleson's everywhere you turn. Fun fact about Nate Burleson, born in Canada.
Yeah, Calgary.
Tried to but never lived in Canada. Like, never. Like, his dad was in the CFL.
Oh, Burleson,
so he was. So anyway, he was on vacation in the Caribbean one time. So he had some kind of passport issue, and he couldn't get back into America. Like, oh, no, you need to go to Canada. He's like, I'm not from Canada. Like, I've never, like, I was there before I was 1 or something like that. So anyway, that's my fun fact.
I never knew that about Nate.
He'll have to tell you the real story, but I see him kind of like, I see people like, Nate, hey, Canadian pride, you're one of us. And instead of correcting him, he's just like, heck yeah, man. I'll be like,
hey, he flows with it. But he's born in Canada, and he's actually very proud. We talked to him, actually. We interviewed him. Very proud of his dad's accomplishments in the Canadian Football League and how it inspired him to be a player.
I will tell you, when Nate Burleson was my teammate, and he's got a lot of in-shape, very fit family brothers, the guy who looked like he was the most fit was the father.
Was Pops, yeah?
Yeah, no doubt about that. But that's a good-looking family, and Nate's the best-dressed guy on really anywhere.
Hey, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's another thing we brought up with him, and that is the fact that, he just recently came out. There's a story that a lot of the jewelry that he wore, like in the NFL, was fake jewelry. So I said, dude, you were like probably the sharpest dressed guy on that team. Maybe Cameron Meebane could have gave him a run for his money.
No.
Nate was sharp. I said, were you wearing like knockoffs or the real things? He said, no, the real things.
Nate was the best dressed guy anywhere, and I'll tell you, he had to do that with the jewelry because his clothes were so expensive. And Nate, at the beginning of the year, he would have his tailor come in, and he would pick out an outfit and a uniform for every game, get the schedule, and it would be the team colors of the team we're playing. We're playing the Broncos. It's like blue and orange. We're playing the Steelers. It's black and yellow. And, like, it was all – I mean, you want to talk about, like, he'd have, like, it'd say inside it'd be, like, Pittsburgh Steelers or, like whatever. It was next level. Never mind his shoe closet of, like, all his Jordans and all that. But you mentioned Sean Alexander. I did not see Sean. He was over there yesterday getting interviewed by my daughter. And so I don't know if Sean's – I haven't talked to Sean a little bit, and he sends me this text of, like, him and my daughter sitting down doing this interview and stuff.
Hey, he's probably like, hey, do you got a daughter that's working?
I'm like, how old are we? He's like, we're old. I'm like, no, we're not old. They're old. The kids are old. Yeah. We're the same. The kids are just older.
That's the crazy part. When you talk about those Seahawk teams and so many great memories, No one memory I remember about you before I even talk about those teams. I knew it was your last game, the last playoff game you guys played in Seattle. You took your kids and you brought them over the railing. And when that happened, I go, this isn't just any game for Matt Hasselbeck. It's like you knew that was your last game in Seattle.
Here's the funny thing. That was my penultimate game with the Seahawks. That was my last game in Seattle.
Yep.
I did not know. My kids had never been on the field before.
Yeah.
I did not know. They were kind of giving me the vibe like, you're our top priority to come back next year. You'll get you healthy, all this stuff. Everyone else knew. So it was actually one of my teammates' wives who'd watched a lot of Seahawks football. Mm-hmm. She was like, he's not coming back. They're not signing him back. He's not going to be here. She took my kids down to the railing, found a police officer who brought my kids onto the field. I had no idea. I'm sitting there. I'm doing an interview with like Alex Flanagan right after the game, and all of a sudden, all three of my kids are right there. And I'm like, what the heck? I just did an interview over here with this collectibles company. Darren Ravel's doing this thing. They're trying to find the Beastquake ball because Marshawn doesn't know what happened to it. Well, I know what happened to it. I took a knee with the ball at the end of the game. And all of a sudden, my three kids are there, and I got a broken left wrist. So I'm like, I put my son on my shoulders, and I give the ball to my middle daughter. And with my good hand, I'm holding my oldest child's hand, and we're kind of rolling like that. And I had no idea. And so I was oblivious, and it was a special moment. We've got these great pictures and this incredible memory for me and for my kids and, hopefully for more people. But I was oblivious and maybe – I don't know what the right word is. Thought I was.
I think oblivious is you just didn't realize. Yeah.
Thought I was playing better than I was.
Well, no, you're caught in the moment, right? That's the thing. You're just kind of caught in that moment.
I think I was just so focused. Like we were 7-9 that year. No one gave us a chance. They were the defending Super Bowl champs. Drew Brees, Sean Payton, all those great players, and they had to come all the way out to us in South Alaska. They were making fun of us, and they were like, the Saints, you don't deserve to be in the playoffs. You certainly don't deserve to host a playoff game. No one gave us a chance, and Pete Carroll just did this amazing job of making us feel like and believe we're 0-0, they're 0-0. Let's do this thing.
Couple more questions before we let you go. I was just about to ask you this, but when you think of those Seahawks teams that you played on, the one that went to Detroit and played the Steelers in the Super Bowl, what are some of your memories?
Well, not good memories because you always remember your failures more than your successes. There's no doubt about that. When I think of Super Bowl 40, I think of if we would have just had this, or if that hadn't been called, or if maybe we were 2 inches this way, or, had I not thrown the first 5 passes in a row to Darrell Jackson, maybe Dick LeBeau doesn't roll the coverage to him and we don't have to change our game plan in the second quarter. Like there's all these things that you think of. But, no, I think there's also some great memories. And I just did an interview with Sports Spectrum, and I was just telling him about this moment. Like before the game, Jim Zorn said to me, he's like, hey, win or lose this game, we're going to take a knee at the 50-yard line, and we're going to say a prayer with the other team, and we're going to say, thank you, God, for the journey that this was. And at the time, I was like, the night before the game, I'm like, yeah, I'll do that because we're going to win. And, like, I've seen the film. Like, we're the better team. We're the best team in football this year. We're the 1 seed. They're a wild card team. We got it. And for all kinds of reasons, we didn't play our best football that game. And I just remember this, like, life lesson. At the 50, the confetti's falling. The Steelers are celebrating with their family, and our family's in the stands, and they're celebrating. And I had this moment of like, are you going to be obedient and say this prayer with this team that you kind of hate their guts right now and do what the right thing is to do and sort of like honor the blessing that it was to have this season and play in this game, a dream come true for all of us. And or are you going to like do what you feel like doing and just go in and sulk and complain and be bitter? And I don't know, for me, that was like a really powerful moment. And every time I see that picture of me and Sean Alexander and DJ Hackett and some others sitting there in their confetti, I don't know, like the life lesson is maybe even more valuable than actually getting to hoist the Lombardi. But with that being said, dang, I wish I would have hoisted that Lombardi.
Yeah. Last one before we let you go. Who wins on Sunday and why?
Well, really, and like on paper, Philly should win this game. They got the most talented team. They got the best defense. They got a run game, the best O-line. Definitely have enough weapons in the passing game. Jalen Hurts had been there before. He's a great runner. They got to get 8.5 yards instead of 10 because, on a first down because they got the tush push, which is seemingly automatic. But I really believe in Andy Reid and continuity of his coaching staff. Spagnuolo is a very, very good coach, maybe one of the best coordinators of all time. Patrick Mahomes, I cannot go against him. Kelsey, like when you have a guy like that, you're always in it. And I think one of the most automatic kickers of all time in Harrison Butker. So if there's time left, Mahomes is going to find a way to get his team into position to win the game. So I'll take Kansas City.
Matt, outstanding stuff. Thanks so much for stopping by. Thanks so much for coming over and saying hi, and we got you over here, and continued success
Anytime.
in everything you do.
Anytime for you guys. Love you guys.